speaking to you all from Puerto Rico, which is a fitting way to explain why I wanted to study science and how I came to that and why I chose the subdiscipline that I chose, biology. So to start the story a little bit, it goes all the way back to when I was 16. I was going to be a senior in high school the summer before, and as the oldest of three children, my mom always wants us to get out of the house during the summer, try to do something a little bit productive. So she saw this flyer that said nanotechnology summer camp, and it was held at the University of Puerto Rico. So at that point, she said, you know what, I think this could be really interesting. You've always been very curious, and I think science would be a great fit. And, at that point, I was, I'm going to just try it out. And I went for it. I applied. I got accepted, and I started. It was like 3 weeks long, but it was an entire day of different researchers coming in and talking to us, giving us a little bit of background about nanotechnology, and then explaining to us how that looked like in the lab, then kind of tying that to the experiments and the research they were doing. And it was something that I had never encountered before. It was a totally new concept to me. So I was really fascinated by the work being done. Some of them were doing, work in outer space. I just saw how all of that came together and how they were so passionate about it. And I could really see myself in that position. Perhaps not nanotechnology, but I knew that I wanted to do something similar to them. So that was the first step in a series of many that took me and led me to where I am today. So I knew at that point I wanted to pursue science in university. So that experience really prompted me and motivated me to study really, really hard in order to come to Northeastern, which is a school that I had my eyes on from the beginning because of the co-op program. And I knew that during the co-op program, I would be able to sort of figure out what I wanted to dedicate my time in research to. So I studied biology because I felt like I've always been very fascinated by the life sciences field, and it just it made sense at that time, and it still does. I really am passionate about that field, so I'm really happy that I chose that to begin with. So I applied, majored in biology, and here we are. So a little bit more as to why I'm studying biology. I think that at first, when I took that first step going into university, it just made sense, like I mentioned. But after my first year, I had a really great professor, and she was very passionate about the field. She explained a specific lecture about cancer biology, and I remember just being fascinated by the cells and how they worked, looking at everything from such a specific angle, and just it made more sense to me in my head to see where it all began and see how it became a bigger picture in the end. But I was more interested in knowing, where did that come from? How did that cancer form? There are so many different ways in which this can happen, because there are different types of cancer. It's like a different character every time in a different body, and it's just so complex that I was absolutely perplexed at the complexity of the whole disease. So I remember at that lecture, I wanted to see if I could do something related to that in university. But like I said, my only experience had been that nanotechnology summer camp. And after that, I really hadn't had any extensive experience doing research in a lab. So that's when I decided that I wanted to go into another laboratory on campus so that I could gain more experience. And since the only experience I had was in nanotechnology, while interviewing a professor for a project, came close with a lab that was focused in biophysics. So it was a lab that allowed me to try pipeting, learn PCR, learn all of the basic techniques. But then again, I kept wondering, how could I really combine the passion that I had for and the curiosity that I had for the field of cancer research with what I was doing in my everyday life. And thankfully, that experience allowed me to go to a summer fellowship program. At that point, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, but they had a comparative oncology department. So I was working in canine oncology. And that summer, one of my closest friends was diagnosed with cancer. So like I said, I had been placed in the comparative oncology department, and through research that summer, I just saw a lot of opportunity. I saw a lot of hope. That field needed answers, and it was posing all of the questions that I myself had every day. So my mission became another. I left my lifelong dream of becoming a veterinarian to pursue something that brought me a lot of purpose, and that was cancer research. Every day was a different way of tackling the problems and the challenges associated with this disease, and the fact that at that point my grandmother also had a disease that had no cure. It clicked with me to do something about it. And I already knew that I was passionate about science. I already knew that I was very interested in cancer biology. So when I encountered the field and when I did the research there, I wanted to be at the forefront of it. I wanted to know what was being done, what has to be done, what has yet to be continued to be done. I wanted to know it all, and I wanted to put that step forward in embracing the mission of what can I do to fight cancer? What can I do to truly help and bring more knowledge to the field, even if it's just a little tiny new piece of information. It's such a big puzzle that it's yet to be figured out. And I knew that through all of that trajectory, from my nanotechnology summer camp to that nano biophysics lab, to then being able to go to a summer research program at a veterinary medicine college, it all led me slowly but surely to doing cancer research. To explain the second part, I'd like to go back to my second co-op. So my second co-op, I was combining what I knew in nanotechnology with cancer research. So it was called CanCure. It's the world's first undergraduate cancer nanomedicine research program. So it's very innovative, and I had the opportunity to work at Dana-Farber. And I was combining nanoparticles, gold nanoparticles to be specific, and another nanoformulation with radiation. So that project led me to go to the American Association for Cancer Research conference. And this is where I realized I had so much more to learn. Although cancer nanomedicine is a field that I found incredibly interesting, I learned when I was there that there were so many questions in my mind as to why these nanoparticles hadn't made it to clinic, why other people didn't really think this was the next, one of the next big things in cancer research, and not a lot of people had a hope in it. It was just really interesting to talk about other scientists with other points of views, because most of my experience doing this co-op was with scientists that believed this was a next big step, and that's something that had a lot of future in the field. So this co-op and this project led me to present at the conference, and I remember I was participating in a poster competition, and one of the judges started asking me questions, like very specific, like why hadn't this made it to trial, like this and that, and I just had no answer. I was baffled. I don't know. I have no idea. He's like, well, that's part of why you're here, to learn more about what we think, what people who are doing other things think. So he told me to go to a particular talk because he thought I would find it really interesting. And I'm like, okay, I'll go. I am part of the Minorities in Cancer Research group from the American Association for Cancer Research, and the talk was focused on that particular topic, but it was even more focused. So in African American males and prostate cancer, and how the survival rates are so low compared to prostate cancer in a white Caucasian male, for example. So this particular professor from UCLA was trying to explain, and his research was really focused on whether this was a genomic issue, a social issue, or a combination of both. And it was really interesting to see that his research was looking at all of the papers, all of the data gathered throughout all of the years on prostate cancer, like cell lines, what had they been used, what treatments had been developed. And he said, it's really interesting to me because even though it may be believed that it is a social issue, which it can be because the treatment is very costly, etc., it's more of a genomic issue, the fact that there is no research being done on African American cell lines. So how can treatments and new medicines can be developed if the cell lines that we're using are only particular to one population, one group of people? There's no data in the genomic database with this type of research, and it was just incredible to see how we are so unilateral sometimes with treatments. How can you say that this treatment is gonna be great for everyone if you're only trying it in the lab and developing for a specific group of people? And that prompted in me a trigger where I said, we gotta think backwards sometimes. We gotta go back to our body and study the biology of it, the cells, how they work. You're not only treating one group of people, like I mentioned, you're treating multiple different races, ethnicities, people with different cultural backgrounds. It's very important for us as scientists to have that perspective in the back of our mind, and for me that was something that really resonated with me. So with that being said, I think that after a lot of research and a lot of talking with a lot of scientists, I find immunotherapy to be really interesting. I think it's incredibly amazing to think that you can train your own body to attack the cancer cells. And it is at the forefront of the field right now, and a lot of people are talking about it, but I just think it made sense with me because going to the talk and having done cancer nanomedicine, I just felt like going back to the basics and going back to like our body is the one who is fighting the disease. They already have the tools to do it. They just need a little bit of more help to recognize those cells. So I think that would be something really interesting to research. I have no experience in it. I have read some papers. However, I think it would be really cool for me to learn more about it throughout the course and maybe talk more about it, teach more people about it. And as I go to St. Jude, which is very well known for cancer research and its pediatric oncology efforts, it is something that they're doing too. So it would be just something very interesting to me to get my step in right now before I start anything else. And it is something that is completely outside of my comfort zone. So thank you for listening to me talk about my passion and my trajectory for about 13 minutes long. I can get really carried away about it, but just one last thing. This is a picture of when I was a little kid and I have a white robe. So I always thought it was gonna be for being a doctor or a vet, but right now I just feel like it might be because I'm gonna be in a lab. So here it is. This is me. As a little kid, I was always passionate and curious about science, so it's kind of really fascinating to be here and be talking about it to you all. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.